Happy Monday, Flosstube! It is March the 4th. My name is Caroline and welcome back to my channel, Off the Grid Needlearts. If you're new around here, welcome. And if you're returning, thanks for coming back. Sometimes I say at the beginning of the episode that it's going to be a short video or I'm going to try and get through things quickly. I am looking at all of the stuff that I have to share with you today and talk about, and notes that I have made about things to talk about. Today's going to be a long episode, so settle in. I hope you have a drink. I hope you've got your stitching, and I can't wait to share everything with you today. It's been 2 weeks since I did a Monday update, and that's part of the reason why I have so much to talk about. But I've also been to a stitching retreat, and I have things from that to share with you. And I also have my month-end review of the projects that I worked on in February, and then the switch over to projects that I have transitioned over until into March. So for those of you that have been visiting with me for a while, you'll also know that Monday afternoon is the day that I coach an adult flute choir. It's 1 o'clock. They usually show up around 10 to 2. So I will probably have to interrupt this video to go and coach them and hang out with them for their hour. And then I will come back after they're done and finish this video up. The other thing that I just briefly wanted to mention is about, and I've talked about it on this channel before, about monetization, the ads that you see. Usually I have an ad at the beginning of the video and there's an ad at the end of the video. And I know what I'm going to say is not going to be terribly popular, but I would really like to add in an ad in the middle of the video, especially these longer videos. If I'm only going to be putting up a 10 or 20-minute video, I won't put an ad in the middle. But for these videos that are going to be longer, the last 3 Monday videos that I've put out have been about an hour long. It's a lot of work. And no complaints. This is a lot of fun too. But it is a lot of time. It's a lot of time. I go through all the comments. I make sure that I either have an answer or can find out an answer. So it's taking me a lot of time, which I'm glad of. However, adding that ad in the middle of the video will increase my YouTube revenue just a little smidge. Certainly no one is getting rich off of YouTube monetization, but it does, you know, it throws a few more pennies in the pot, and it makes it a little bit more worth the time that's invested into it, because as well as the recording of it, there is then the editing and the processing and the uploading and importing and exporting and all of that. And when I can tell John, you know, I didn't just sit and chat and eat bonbons and talk to my Flosstube friends all day, that there is actually possibly a paycheck coming from YouTube as well, then that helps me out a little bit. So I know the ad in the middle is not always popular. I will try to choose a spot where it's unobtrusive. I do appreciate your understanding. And, you know, just letting that ad play while you go to the washroom or get a drink, because this is going to be a long episode, you might need a little intermission. We'll call it an intermission. I appreciate that. So thanks for understanding. Okay, let's get right to it. We are going to start with the Because Monday giveaway. Every Monday we do a giveaway on Off the Grid Needlearts, and that giveaway happens over on our Facebook group, which is called Friday Off the Grid, and you can join us over there. Great group of stitchers. I always post the giveaway on Monday after the video is live, and it is many times a new pattern that's never been stitched, or if I have some past the stash that has been donated to me, or I have purchased a bunch of things through my project bag business Tote that I also use for giveaways. So there's always a new giveaway on Monday. We missed last week because I didn't record and I didn't get around to putting up a giveaway. So sorry about that, but that's okay. We're up for today. So 2 weeks ago, the Because Monday giveaway was actually a Pass the Stash, and it was this beautiful Chessie and Me pattern. And I know it says kit, limited edition kit. All you're getting is the pattern. So you will need fabric and threads to stitch this. And believe it or not, I did not pull the winner before I started filming this video. So I am going to say congratulations right now to the winner that gets chosen. And when I'm done recording and am editing this video, I will go into the Facebook group, use the random number generator to choose the winner, and contact you through Facebook. So congratulations to, I hope you love your pattern. So that was the last giveaway that we did. So the giveaway for today, this Monday, this is a kit. This is a Mill Hill kit, and I'm going to show it to you first, and then I'm going to tell you who it's from. So this is a jeweled bar pin series 2. So as we all know and love Mill Hill bead kits, this is a special one. So that's what you're going to produce, and you can see it's got this lovely gold colored pin at the top, and then you do all of the beadwork down here to create this filigree sort of flower design. And so as you can see, the kit is fully complete, not opened, it's brand new, and that's our giveaway for today. This giveaway is being donated by my friend Joanne. Joanne is one of the ladies who organizes our local stitching retreat that I just returned from last weekend. And Joanne is, her story is not mine to tell, but she's been having some health issues lately. And today, Joanne, if you're watching me, today is Monday, I'm thinking about you today, and I wanted to give this pattern away today to celebrate your generosity of spirit and your kindness, and putting some good vibes out there in the world just for you, Joanne. So thank you again. And the donation from Joanne today will be up on our Facebook group, and you can leave me a comment over there if you'd like me to send this to you. Doesn't matter where you live, I will send this anywhere in the world. So feel free to enter, even if you live across the pond from me. I live in Canada, so I'll send that anywhere. And good luck. Okay, so since I was just talking about the retreat, I'm gonna carry on and just finish up telling you about that because it was so much fun. I had such a good time. Joanne and Patty's daughter Carrie, they are just the most amazing people. They had gift bags for everybody. Joanne had done so much work creating an individualized name tag and gift bag for everybody. Look, there's even a design on the back. Everything was beautifully decorated. And wait till you see what they had for everybody. This was just the coolest thing. You're gonna love this. Okay, so inside everybody's gift bag there was a little surprise tin. Okay, and everybody had different kind of candies inside. But wait till you see the top. And I know it's very bright out today, so hopefully this won't completely blow out. But look at that. They stitched everybody's initial and stuffed the top of this jar lid with their stitching, and there's some batting in there to make it nice and puffy. And then it's a little jar, and you know what you can use it for after the candy is gone? An ort jar. It's a perfect little ort jar. Now, if that wasn't cute enough, check this out. Look at that. Handmade with love. Now, apparently those were stickers that Joanne found at the dollar store. Isn't that clever? It's so cute and so clever. I was blown away. So now if I can get it back on straight. I'm trying to keep the chocolate in the jar. So maybe I'll share it with the kids later today. So I don't need it. I want it, but I don't need it. Okay, the other thing we had, there were some door prizes, there were some giveaways, and there was a raffle. There were raffle tickets on the Saturday night, and so there was a gift basket. We bought tickets for the raffle, and then at the end, Patty and Joanne gave away all of the models that they had done that were on display there for us. And I'm going to show you the patterns in a minute. Just we'll get to it. But this was the one that I won, that I chose. We got to choose, if we won one, we got to choose from the pile. Isn't that cute? Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is Blue Ribbon Designs. I'm going to find out in just a minute and I'll share that with you. But look at how Joanne finished it. It is so cute. So I'm going to turn this around because she stapled the fabric to it's one of those art canvas pieces that you can buy at Michael's very inexpensively. And, you know, she just used some DMC to make a little loop hanger. And then, you know, some rickrack around the side. Actually, that's not rickrack. That's it's two layers of like a braided, you know, braided rope. What do you call that? You know what I mean, right? And then, you know, a little bit of quilt batting underneath the stitching, and then mounted that on top of the fabric covered board. Such a sweet finishing idea, and a little teeny tiny cute ribbon detail in the bottom there. Super sweet. Okay, so these were samples of a package of freebie patterns that they had printed out for us. So just hang on a second. I'm going to get those patterns and share them. Okay, so this is a big package of freebies. So I'm going to share some of them with you today, and I'll share the rest of them with you next Monday, because otherwise I'll never get to everything else that I have to share with you today. So I was right. The design that Joanne had stitched was from Blue Ribbon Designs, and it's called Cardinals for a Cure. And so Blue Ribbon Designs, that was the pattern, and you can find it where? Yeah, www.blueribbondesigns.com. I'm assuming that that's where they found it from. So there was that one, and then there was this adorable snowman called the Happy Snowman. This was designed by Tina Herman, and it's a shepherd's bush pattern. Yeah, www.shepherdsbush.net. That's Tina, right? Isn't that cute? So that's a freebie there. And what else can I show you? There was a Love Lives Here. This is by Nancy Chifala Designs. Heart and Hand. Heart and Hand. So where did they find it? 2017 Heart in Hand Needle Art. So it's one of these cute little houses. If you like stitching houses, Heart in Hand. Love Lives Here. Just another sweet freebie. They had stitched 2 or 3 of them in, you know, different colorways on different material, and just how you can turn a simple free design into something so sweet and different and finished so differently to produce a different result was really quite fun. So yes, 2017 Heart in Hand Needle Art. Heart in Hand Needle Art. So I suspect if you just Googled that, Heart in Hand Needle Art, you would find Love Lives Here. So I'm going to share a few more of the freebie patterns with you next week when I have a little bit more time. Okay, so next up, I have some show and tell. So this is not a new show and tell. This is actually something that I finished last year. And if you have watched episode number 1, my very, very first episode, and in fact, the screen cap on that episode shows me holding this very floss. This is a silk floss that's no longer made by Vicki Clayton, called Hand-Dyed Fibers, and it was called the Marque de Cercle colorway. Okay, so it's this beautiful, beautiful gold color. And I had used that floss to stitch an ink circles design. And I was working on that ink circles design when I first started making Flosstube videos. I finished that piece last year, and then just recently, so I haven't had it framed yet, but I have had it stretched and mounted. So, ta-da! It is ready to be framed. And I wanted to show this to you because How often do you get to see a professionally laced and prepared project? Look at that lacing job there. I mean, look at that. I need to learn how to do this. And I know that there are those of you out there in Flosstube land that do this yourself. And I am super impressed because it is so neat and tidy. It is completely straight. It's complete, like look at how straight that is. So my friend Neil did it, and Neil used to have a framing business at my local needlework shop, Thread and I, that when they retired, very fortunately for me, we are very good friends, and Neil agreed to stretch and mount this for me. He doesn't do the big fancy frames anymore, but he did offer to prepare it properly for me, so that, because I really wanted to splurge on good framing for this, because as you can see, this took me a really long time. This took me a really long time, and I want it framed forever. I want this framed forever. I want my kids to want to hang this in their house. That sounds bad. A lot of my stuff that I love, they will hate. I'm hoping that they love this and that we'll want to keep this. And if they don't, like I said last time, if it ends up in the thrift shop, I'll be dead and I'll never know. So, okay. So that's, you know, we're going with it. So he laced it on a mounting board, and then he cut out a mounting board and put it inside so that when I take it to be framed, it is properly presented. So this will be inside the framing in order to support and protect the needlework. So the top corner of it is munched because of me, not because of Neil. That was my fault. I jammed it into something earlier today when I was getting ready to show it to you, and I thought, well, there goes that. It's not perfect anymore. However, how nice is that? Let's all just take a moment to admire my hard work here, because I finished it last year. And it's finally mounted, so hallelujah. So that's my show. That's my big show and tell for today. So I hope you don't mind me sharing an older piece with you again today. Okay, so I'm just gonna tuck that gently down there, and we're moving on. Okay, so we're gonna get into the Ask Caroline section now. I'm going to start with a comment and question from Kyle, Stitching and Sound, who wants to know what's a horror story you have with stitching. And this was a question both to me and to you guys as well, so that, you know, maybe we could have some stuff happening in the comment section that we could have a fun conversation about. Horror stories about your stitching. Spilled coffee on a nearly completed piece. Did you make a mistake that was, you know, far beyond repair? Did you lose a finished project, etc.? Okay, so I'm gonna just reach over here just for a sec, because I have a small horror story of my own, and but I'm gonna show you the finished product first, and then I'll tell you about the horror story. So about 10 years ago, I stitched the Prairie Schooler seasons, and I've shown these before, but not close up, so hopefully it's not too glary. You can see. Oh, you're gonna get a good view of my, oh, can you see my stacks of fabric over there? Yeah, hazard of having a sewing business, I guess, but there you go. So there's autumn, and winter, there, and summer, and spring. So there's the last one. There's spring. Sorry, you're getting a bit of a glare. You can also see, you see this? This is how I support my phone. It's really high tech. I use some quilt batting to make sure I don't scratch my phone while I'm recording. So true life, real life, right? Okay, so I showed you spring last because this was my horror story. And I don't think you can tell any difference between these two, right? No difference. However, this one, I dumped a completely full cup of tea on. Completely full cup of tea. Dumped all over it. And you'd never know. So that's my horror story. It's not much of a horror story because it had a good ending, but there were a few panicked hours while I soaked it and was positive that, because it was almost done. It was almost completely finished being stitched, and I was on holiday with my in-laws and was relaxing, and I completely dumped an entire cup of tea all over it. So that was not fun, but it turned out okay in the end. Okay, going along with the coffee and tea dyed theme, I had a great question from Lori. Lori's mom, about 15 years ago, gave her, I think if I'm reading this correctly, her mom gave her she says she called it an angel, but I think it's a decoration. But I gather that this angel, the fabric that was used, the parts that put it together were tea or coffee dyed, okay? And so she said recently she noticed that the dress that was made from a handkerchief has turned a not so nice dark brown. So it's very discolored and not nice looking anymore. She wants to know if the same thing will happen to fabric that has been dyed this way for stitching. Because we do dye, we coffee and tea dye fabric to stitch on. Has anyone had a piece hanging on their wall longer than 10, 15 years? Have you noticed that it affects the quality of the fabric at all? Does it weaken the fibers? Does it discolor after a while? I had no idea. I didn't know because I don't have any of my own stitching on stuff that I have dyed, period, because I've never tried it myself. I've been wanting to try Vanna's method, the bake and baste method. I've wanted to try that, but I haven't yet. I actually have a project waiting in the wings. Patterns, fabric. It's the it's the 9 designs with the coffee theme. Anything with coffee on it, I'm going to want to stitch it. But I'm curious. I think Lori's question is a good one. Does it discolor after time? So anybody with any experience out there that can offer some advice would be great. Moving on to my friend Alyssa. Alyssa lives here in London. She's a good friend of mine. She is also the host of her very own knitting podcast called Knit One, Breathe Two. And Alyssa asked me a question 2 videos ago that I completely missed. So that has happened. I can miss comments and questions. So if I do, it's not intentional. Please just ask me again, which fortunately for me, Alyssa did. She wanted to know about the painting up overhead. She wanted to know if that was a cross stitch piece, and it's not. Lots of people think it's cross stitch because I record Flosstube videos and I'm a stitcher and I like really massive projects. But no, that's actually a really interesting piece there, and it's one of my favorite pictures in the house. We were visiting family in Montreal, Canada. I don't know. I'm going to say 15, 20 years ago. That's a broad guess. Who knows when? But anyone who knows Montreal knows, like lots of other major, cities, has beautiful art galleries and shops. And so we were visiting an art gallery with John's cousin, and we saw this piece. And fortunately for us, it's not an original because we couldn't have afforded an original. It is a print where the artist took, I think there's like 200 or 500, couldn't be 500. It might only even be 100. I don't know. Sounds like a lot of work. But they took 100 or so prints of their painting and they added brush strokes on top of the print. So it's actually, there is some texture. There's some texture to the top of the print. It looks like, unless you look up close, And you think, oh, that actually really isn't a painting when you just look at it, because it has texture to it. It creates kind of a bit more interest to it. I think it's beautiful. I've always loved it. And thanks for asking, Alyssa. But no, it's not a cross-stitch piece. Okay, I talked a lot about hand lotion last video, so I'm not here to talk another 10 minutes about hand lotion, but I did have a good comment from Emma Swartz, who reminded me about a product called Stitcher's Lotion. I have used this product before, and Emma said she uses Stitcher's Lotion. She's used it for the last 10 years because it is specially formulated for use with all different types of needlework. And that is true. It certainly is, that's why it was created. It's called Stitcher's Lotion. It's not quite strong enough for me. I have used it before. I have extremely dry skin, like really dry. Desert, Sahara, desert skin dry. And it never, when it absorbs right in, but it would feel like I hadn't really used much of anything. So I need something a little stronger. If you don't have a real problem with terribly dry skin and cuticles that snag on, air, then Stitcher's Lotion is great. I mean, it really is good. My friend Tracy, you met her last week. Tracy uses it all the time, and it's her favorite. It's her favorite lotion. Okay, I owe an apology to all my Scottish viewers who, this was funny actually. Louise Davis in Scotland left me a lovely comment, and she was tongue-in-cheek here, so I did take this the way she intended it, very kindly. I had said, I was talking about accents, and I said, I know Scottish people are English. Scottish people speak English. They speak the English language. So it's a touchy subject, and my husband's aunt Sheila, who is Scottish, would definitely slap me with a wet noodle for saying that Scottish people are English. There you go. So Scottish people speak English. I have lots of Scottish friends. I know the difference. It's a tricky issue, so we don't have to get into the politics of it. However, I should have said Scottish people speak English. And apparently I have an accent. Lots of you let me know that I have an accent, and apparently I say about. I don't say aboot. And that's usually the joke with Canadians, isn't it? Aboot? Let me tell you about something. I don't know. I don't say a lot. That's very stereotypical. But apparently you all seem to think I have an accent, which is quite funny. Anyways, thank you. Okay, so that's the end of page 1. Moving into page 2. Glinda wants to know about cross-stitch apps and opinions on cross-stitch apps. And I thought this was a great question because she's wondering there's a difference. Apparently one of them, and I don't know anything about cross-stitch apps, so I'm really hoping for some detailed information below from those of you who use them and love them, or those of you who use them and hate them. Let's get the skinny on this. There's one that has a yearly subscription fee, or there's one that has a $2.99 flat cost. So what's the difference, and do you love it? Is it worth it? So Glinda, I thought that was a great question, and I'm curious to know too, because I always love, little apps that are useful. Okay, Lynette left me a great comment. I had been discussing the thought of sable, Sable. There shouldn't be a T in there. It's Sable. Stash acquisition beyond life expectancy, which I have reached. I don't need any more stash. How do we work on enjoying what we have and not always being shiny nickeled by Nashville retreat? Nashville retreat. See, I've got two things on the mind there. Nashville releases that we're being bombarded with at the moment. How do we, if we are already at capacity, how do we resist? And she had a great comment. I thought this was really good. When I see a pattern I love, I look at my whips to see if I have something in a similar style, and I try to use the new pattern as inspiration to stitch on a similar work in progress that I already have on the go. She said it works 80% of the time, more or less. And I think that's a pretty good goal, right? I mean, none of us are perfect. None of us are never going to not buy something ever again. But just having that little, you know, here's the red devil and here's the white angel, and they're kind of like, okay, if the angel can win 80% of the time and the little devil who's whispering, you know, you really want that cardinal points pattern that is just so beautiful and everybody's stitching it. So far the angel's winning. So great idea, Lynette. I thought that was really good. E. Kennedy and Denise both wanted to know about the what materials I was using for Frosty Forest, which I showed last Monday Flosstube. It was the one with the, it's cute, and I don't have it right here with me, but I showed it last Monday, 2 Mondays ago. Frosty Forest, it's got the individual ones. I used it to describe how to calculate what size of fabric to use, to purchase or cut. Sorry about that. Just got a phone call from the optometrist. So, right, Frosty Forest. I am using the called for fabric and the called for threads. It's mostly DMC with a little bit of weeks dye work, I think, is in there. I actually haven't worked on it in quite a while, so I'm not exactly sure on the flosses, but I know that I'm using the called for, except for when it's like 1 or 2 stitches of a color, like the nose on the snowman, the carrot nose on the snowman. I just found some orange thread in my stash and just used that. So the fabric I know is a 30 count Confederate gray linen. We had 2 choices. You could either stitch it on an Aida, a gray Aida, or the gray linen. For that project I went with the linen. I'm pretty positive it's a 30 count Confederate gray. I do know that for that pattern in particular, I for sure 100% am using the called for fabric. So if you look up Frosty Forest, I think that's Cottage Country Needleworks, if I'm not mistaken. Frosty Forest, and it's the called for fabric and threads. That's what I'm using for that. So thanks for asking. All right, next, coming across to the Crafty Cataloger, who has a channel on YouTube. She has a Flosstube channel. I have not checked out her videos yet, but I'm hoping to get over and visit with her either later today or tomorrow. She has some questions about our cottage. Recently I've talked about how my family, not me, but them, how they like to go over in the winter time. They snowshoe over to the cottage and spend a weekend there. Well, she had some questions about the cottage. She wanted to know, how far across the water is it to the island? Where we are up there, it's known as the Thousand Islands. So in Georgian Bay, there are literally like a lot of little teeny tiny islands. They're quite close together, and they're dotted all over, close to the shoreline of northern Ontario. And you know, we can see a ton of other little islands right from where we are. So it's not like one little island or one big island out in the middle of Georgian Bay. There's a ton of little islands out there. So it's a really, really interesting place. And when we get there in the summer, I'll spend a little bit more time talking about the geography of it and, you know, showing you some maps and stuff. I am never ever going to point out exactly where it is that I live in the summer. I'm never going to tell you the name of the island or exactly pinpoint it on a map for you, because, well, that would just be silly. But I'll explain the geography of the area where I live in the summertime, because it's a special, special place. It's incredible. So how far across the water to our island, you see, that would depend on where you're coming from, because you can come from many different places. For us, where we park the boat, And it depends whose boat you take, because my father-in-law's boat, it takes us 20 minutes to get to the island. And with our boat, it takes us 10 to 15. It also depends on the weather. Georgian Bay is very, very well, the Great Lakes are temperamental. Georgian Bay is very temperamental weather. So you can have a sunny, calm day, calm water, and then half an hour later, the wind can just whip up the waves, and you'll have, 3-meter waves. It's gale force winds are a thing, and it's why, if you've heard of Group of 7 paintings, it's a style, you'll recognize the sort of windswept sideways trees, pine trees. They grow that way because of the wind. It's remarkable. So that's from where we park. They do not park in the same spot when they go there in the winter, because it would just take way too long to walk. So they actually park in a different location, and they walk. They park the car in a different location, and they snowshoe over in the winter when the ice is frozen. So it takes them about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. If the kids, Sarah's great. Nicholas, sometimes he's new at doing this, and for a 10-year-old to snowshoe that far, he's a 10-year-old boy. He's going to complain, and he's going to be a little slower at times. However, the second time that they went, he did a lot better. So about an hour and 15 minutes to snowshoe over. How long to snowshoe, right? Do they pull a sled or take backpacks? They do pull sleds, one sled. And they have to pack light because, well, they have to pull it. They have to take in everything that they take. Food, water, drinking water, clothes, toiletries, you name it. If they need it, they have to pack it. So John has one sled, and they pack a bin full of stuff, and then the kids will have something light that they can maybe put on their back, but really they should be focused on walking and what they're doing, and not worried about being hindered by anything else. They are attached by ropes, so John will be at the front, and he will have a rope with, was he at the front or the back? I can't remember. Maybe he was at the back. See, I've never done this. I've only seen pictures. So I actually have a feeling that he's at the back. So they're all attached by ropes. So they all have ropes on, and then they spread out. Okay, so they're not all walking in one pack, because for safety's sake, right? If somebody goes through the ice, they're all attached, and they're spread out. So there's a long distance between each person. Okay, so one person is attached, rope around the middle, next person behind, rope around the middle, person at the back, rope around the middle, and then carrying this, pulling the sled. So the sled is attached like a dog sled. He's got the rope for the sled around his waist. And then Sarah, because she's now older, she is now also capable of pulling the sled. And for the very first time, last time they went up, Sarah's boyfriend joined them. So Sarah's boyfriend went up, and they've been dating for quite a while now, like 2.5 years. We really like him. He's a nice boy, and he loves the cottage. So he's got an extra little tick in his checkbox for do we approve? We approve. Because if you're going to date one of our kids, you're gonna have to like the cottage, because you're probably gonna be there quite a bit. But he went up there and he loved it, and he was also able to help pull the sled this time. So I hope that answered your questions, and thanks for asking. That was kind of fun. All right, moving back into stitching. Kathy Janice wanted to know how to attach fabric straight on my scroll rods. So this pulls me into one of February's whips, which was my modern folk embroidery. So you can see how far I got for February. Not as far as I wanted, but further than I was. So I got all the way over to the other side. The top border is completely done, and I managed to almost finish February. I have just a little bit left under here for February. Not much. Actually, I guess there's some more over here too. but not much. And then I barely got any of March done, but that's okay. It's all good. So the question was, how do you attach fabric straight on your rods? And the answer, the easy answer to that is I just try my best. Just take your time, and I just try my best. I'm usually not very, sometimes I'm impatient. Many times I'm impatient, and I don't take the time that I should, and it's crooked. Corners and curves, my Rosewood Manor corners and curves piece is totally and completely crooked. Completely crooked. And I'll probably never ever show it close up because it's kind of embarrassing how crooked it is. But that's okay. I can still stitch it. I can still work on it. It's still getting some progress, so that's okay. So I don't have a much better answer than that, other than take your time. You can pin it in place and then baste it. Sometimes I've used a sewing machine to attach it, and most of the time I just hand baste it. Slowly. The more slowly and carefully you do it, the straighter it will be. So don't take my advice. Don't be impatient, or don't be like me. Take my advice and take your time. Then it will be straighter. So 40 count R&R reproduction linen in the Patriot Sprue colorway. And I am sorry to say that I am using a discontinued Hand-Dyed Fibers thread, silk thread by Vicki Clayton, that you can't buy anymore. So I'm sorry. So choose a color that you love and love it, because you're going to be doing a lot of stitches if you do this pattern. It's the Modern Folk Embroidery Mystery Seasons Stitch Along from 2018, and it's beautiful. And my fabric is, obviously clearly wrinkled, and I don't care. So I'm still gonna love it. Still gonna stitch it. Okay. So I have one last question from the last week's video as part of the Ask Caroline section. So I'm gonna handle that. That sounds very serious. Anyway, Sharon Littlefield asked, I had talked a few weeks ago about showing how to unwrap and wind a skein of wool. Okay, because you can't just start knitting from it if you buy it in a skein. You can if you buy a ball of yarn from like a craft store, you can just start knitting. But a skein of yarn has to be handled first before you start knitting, or you'll just end up with a huge tangled mess. So Sharon wondered if a Silks for You hank was handled the same way. And it's a great question, because it does come exactly the same way as a skein of yarn. I probably would handle a Silks for You skein differently, because you're going to be using a lot shorter lengths of floss. I know Letitia has talked about how she handled her Silks for You hank. I have one that I'm planning on using at some point. Actually, I have a few. I still haven't even broken them open, which is shameful. So I'm going to be doing that fairly soon, and then I'll hopefully be able to show you how I take care of handling it. But I'm probably going to be cutting it into lengths and putting all of those lengths on individual thread drops and keeping it, like 20 yard groups. Okay, my flute choir ladies are here, so I'm going to pause this video for an hour, and I'll be back, and I'll get to the rest of my whips and all the other good stuff. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. It was fun. I always love seeing my flute choir ladies. We always have a really good time. For those of you who are new or haven't watched me before, I have a flute performance degree, and piano is my secondary instrument, and I've taught private music lessons out of my home for the last too many years to count. So as Evertote, my project bag business, has taken off, that has now become full-time for me, and my teaching career is starting to wind down. So it's nice to still keep my finger in a little bit of music, and having the ladies come once a week for a rehearsal is it's a bright spot in my week. So you're never too old to learn an instrument. If it's something that you've always wanted to do, I highly encourage it. All right, so because I did not watch the last few minutes of what I managed to record before I had to stop, I probably did a very poor job of answering Sharon's question. So what I did was I took a moment to grab a hank, of the Silks for You silk that I have. And I know someone is going to ask me the color number, and those of you who know me know that this is my favorite color. I wear this color all the time. All the time. It's not the same shirt. They are different, but it's my favorite color. So this is, again, I have said what number it is before, but I've lost the invoice for it. Not lost. It's somewhere. It's just not in my hand right at this moment. So I'm afraid to tell you that I don't know what number it is, so I'm sorry. But you can't go wrong with any of their colors. Silks for You is very good quality for the cost, and considering it ships all the way from Australia, it's a nice treat. Okay, so this is the way it comes. It comes in this big circle, and it's tied together with these extra little bits of string. You can see that. And it's all one really, really, really long strand of silk floss that's just been wound around and around and around and around. And so it's tied like this to keep it tamed. Once you cut those ties, you have to manage it. You have to deal with it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an enormous tangled mess. Now, I know that we have a viewer friend in Germany, Junya. She posted on the Facebook group last year. She had a lovely hank of green, and she used her Swift and ball winder for knitting to wind up. She caked up her skein of silk just like you would cake up a skein of yarn, and it worked really well for her. The way that I'm probably going to do it is I am going to keep the ties on. I'm going to keep those ties on, and I'm going to come down to the end, and I'm going to take a big pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut through the end of the entire hank. So everything. So this will be open, and then it will still be corralled by this tie at the top, and then I'll get rid of the extra ties on the sides. And then working from the top, I'm going to separate it into groups, maybe about that much, and I'm going to corral them onto individual thread drops, just like you buy a skein of weeks or crescent colors. I'm going to prepare my floss that way. So anyways, that's how I plan on dealing with my skein of silk. So it is just the most beautiful color. And I apologize that I don't know the number. Somebody who's watched that episode recently, maybe you remember when I talked about it. I did actually say the numbers at one point. If it rings a bell that you heard it recently, maybe you remember which episode number. I'm sorry that off the top of my head I can't. But perhaps someone knows and can help me out. Okay, so that takes care of all of the questions and comments that we had from the video that was 2 weeks ago. And thank you so very much for everything that you said and left me comments on. It's a big part of my week, reading what you guys say and all of the good things that happen all over, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so I've shown you my Modern Folk embroidery whip. So the next whip that was from February, oops, it's not that one. Don't get excited. So I had two other whips from February that I worked on. And the first one was my True Blue. It's going to look like this when it's done. This is a Barbara and Cheryl design, leaflet 38. This is a full coverage piece, and I am working this on a 22 count hardanger fabric. If you haven't watched the Friday Off the Grid videos the last couple of weeks, here's where I am. There. So I've started the big part of the door here. You can see that. This is all filled in there. So I did all of that as well. I was mistaken. I called this Congress cloth. This is not Congress cloth. This is hardanger fabric. This is a 22 count hardanger fabric. The difference between the two is that hardanger fabric is in the same category as Aida cloth. It's the same weave, so it has 2 strands of 2 fibers this way and the 2 fibers with the warp and 2 fibers with the weft. So if I hold it really close, you can see. I hope you can see. Let me see if, does that help? There. So 2 strands warp and 2 strands weft. Congress cloth only has one strand warp, 1 strand weft, and it is more in a canvas category. So hardanger fabric is like Aida category, and Congress cloth is like canvas. Congress cloth is very, very stiff, like a canvas, like a mono canvas would feel, like my next project that I'm going to share with you. It feels very, very stiff. And you can, it's beautiful for, and I'll show you next week. I promise I will show you next week. I've got a project started on some Congress cloth that is actually Congress cloth and not hardanger. And I am using 2 strands of floss on a 25 count Congress cloth, doing the 10th stitch for this design. So 10th stitch is where you just do 1 leg of the cross. Instead of doing a full cross, you just do 1 strand all the way across in your stitch. And the coverage is beautiful. So Congress cloth comes in a 24 or 25 count. Hardanger fabric only comes in a 22 count. Aida, I believe, goes up to 20. Someone please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong about that, please, because I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. So hardanger fabric is really nice to use when you want the look and feel of Aida cloth, but you want a smaller feel than the smallest you can get. And I am using, this is 1 strand. I need to tighten my fabric a little bit here, but anyways, I think you can still see. It is 1 strand of DMC over the cross, full cross, 1 strand. So there you go, 22 count hardanger fabric, true blue. Okay, so that one is going to be tucked away for a little while. Who knows when I'll pull it back out again. My other whip, and I have not put a single stitch in this since the Stitch With Me video, was my pin cushion design. This is from the very first pattern of cross stitch that I ever did as a teenager. It is from a kit, a pin cushion kit that I received as a kid. It's full of mistakes. Someone hand drew it and sold it in the kit. It literally is like, when I am lucky I continued to cross stitch as my first project, because as a new stitcher and as a teenager with little patience, I didn't understand where the problem was, and I couldn't understand why it was wrong, and I couldn't fix it. And so it sat forever because it was so frustrating that it was so wrong, and I knew it was wrong, and it wasn't lining up, and it looked wrong, and I was really angry at it. And so you can see I've put a few corrections in, but there's a few more down in here. So if you feel free to make this your own and make the corrections. It's a very simple little design. So I'm doing this as a Christmas. Oh, it's one of my Flossmas ornaments on a pre-finished 14 count Aida covered canvas, and it's a really, really lovely kind of natural looking fabric there. And the floss is Victorian Motto Sampler Shop thread from the Victorian Christmas collection that she put out last Christmas. And the DMC conversion number for this is 498. So 498 is going to give you a really close match to that thread. It's just a beautiful color. I love it. I love it. So True Blue and my Modern Folk embroidery piece are being put away, and I've moved into March. But this one I will finish. I'm not putting this one away until it's finished. So that's the plan. Okay, so this is my project bag. Oops. With extra quilt batting. This is what I use. These are my leftover scraps of quilt batting, and I use these, as I said before, to protect my phone when I'm recording. So I think it was just an extra piece lying around. So this is the large flat project tote. This is the size. And the only reason I'm showing you this one, because this is an old one that Kathy made like 2 years ago. This one we haven't sold this fabric for a really long time. But this is mine. This is my bag. And I just wanted to show you how it fits. This is an 11-inch square Q-snap, and it fits inside my bag. So you can see there's the inside. I've got my grime guard on, and I've still got an inch or so at the top. I also have my Flossmas project in there, my floss, my patterns, and a pair of scissors. I had an Oceans tote in there, but oh, I had a DMC bobbin box in there, one of the big ones. Believe it or not, I had a bobbin box in there as well. So it is a generously sized bag. So I usually will put more than one project in a bag because, you know, a project needs a friend. So just keep that in mind, because I'm going to talk later in my little shop update about a large project bag. So now you know the actual size of it. And speaking of staying organized, while I'm looking at it, I'm going to put the pattern back inside before it gets lost. Okay, so moving on to March. So for March whips, I have 3 things on the go. First one I'll talk about is the one that I haven't put a single stitch in and I haven't started yet, which is the Mill Hill bead kit. It's a mailbox. I didn't even bring it down to show you because I'm going to finish that Flossmas ornament first before I get into that. But the other thing that I have put a lot of work into is my canvas piece. So this is, and you know what? The cover photo is upstairs. So I'm just gonna show you what I've got, how it's looking so far, because really it's symmetrical, so you can imagine that the rest of it's gonna look exactly the same. I did quite a bit. I have quite a bit of progress on this. So I'm just gonna get some, here we go, ta-da, ta-da! Look at that. I did a lot since the last time you saw this. I completely finished the top right, the top right corner. That's completely finished now. That is how the rest of the corners will look when it's complete, when it's done. And I am coming down around this corner here, down around the bottom. I am loving it. And I'll tell you what, I have always had to stitch canvas in hand. It fits in my Lowry frame. The Lowry frame will hold the bars, the stretcher bars for the canvas piece. I was able to work on this two-handed over the weekend, which I believe truly sped me up. And it was really an enjoyable way to stitch on this, because normally my left hand that holds the frame would tend to become fatigued. But no, it worked really, really well. So I'm super pleased with this. The pattern is called Starry Skies, and it is from the designer From Nancy's Needle. And she has a website, and I believe you can buy the fully kitted up kit from her website. I'm not sure where else it's sold, but I do know that it is easily orderable from her site. Be prepared that it is, these are specialty threads, and it's a bit of a unique craft, so the cost is kind of reflective of that. It's not a very cheap project to finish, and that's why it's been in my stash for a long time, and it's time to finish it up and enjoy it. So I am kind of thrilled with my progress. I fully intend to finish this by the end of March. It will happen. So, ta-da! Okay, so that's whip number 2. Whip number 1, I have nothing to show you. Whip number 3 is my Glendon Place tiramisu. And I was working on this on the Friday off the grid video. So what I've done is I've just taken a little video clip of the work that I've done since Friday. I concentrated mainly on the middle left side. So I didn't talk. It's a 20-second clip of the stitching itself. And so I'm just going to insert that video here so that you can see what it looks like now. So that's it. It's a thoroughly enjoyable piece to work on. It is, again, just the information in case you don't watch the Friday Stitch With Me videos. It is designed by Glendon Place, called Tiramisu. It's from the dessert series of patterns that she has out. They are all stunningly beautiful. The cross stitch is just about half complete. And then once the cross stitching is done, there are a lot of beads that have to go on it. So my goal for 2019 is to finish the cross stitch. We'll see. Okay, so oh, and fabric is 28 count Picture This Plus in the sand colorway. The design itself calls for the Mesa colorway, but I switched it out to one that was a little less orange at the time. When I was looking at what my options were, the Mesa that was in stock was a little bit orange, and I'm more of a neutral person. So, unless it's magenta. Then that neutrality just goes right out the window. Okay, so I have a tiny little shop update today. March is usually quite a busy month for us as a family because March break happens right in the middle of it and my kids take a holiday. So I usually like to take some time off to spend with them as well. So I will be closing the shop down. Next week I'll have more information. I'm gonna put on the shop exactly the dates when it's closed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday. Shop is still open this week through the weekend as well. So that is www.evertote.com, and I sell project bags for knitters and cross stitchers. And well, I mean, you can use these project bags for a laptop, or you know, you have to check the dimensions because everything is different sizes, but people use them for everything. My husband has a small one that he uses for his laptop. It's a little sleeve, and it was one of the first bags that I ever made, and I love seeing it around the house because it's one of the few things. Well, no, it's not one. I knit him a sweater and he wears that all the time. But, you know, when you make someone something and they use it all the time or they wear it all the time, you know that they really appreciate it. I was thinking about Colette the other day. Now, Colette is a viewer, and just hang on a second. Last year, Colette, we started chatting on the Facebook group, and anyways, long story short, I sent her some Coffee Crisps, which is a chocolate bar that we have here in Canada that she was reminiscing about. I sent her some chocolate, and you know, much to my shock, in reply and thanks, she made me, it still shocks me. I have to make sure that it doesn't have any dust on it because this lives on my desk. I use it every day. This is what Colette made for me. I have shown this here before, but I know that lots of people probably never saw that, and I want to show it again because this finish is amazing. I'm not going to show you the back because Colette has her personal information on the back, but I'll show you the top of it because you can see she used the same beautiful fabric on the back, and she quilted this. So this is is it a Heinzmann pattern? Colette, could you please leave me a comment below? I have asked you this question like 5 times and you'd think I could remember. I apologize because I am always showing this off. And the chickadee pattern as well that Daleen stitched for me. Daleen, lots of people want to know the designer of the chickadee pattern. I believe it was Cricket's Crossing. I am hopeless. Please leave me a comment below so that I can give the proper and correct information next week. I will write it down. So she did the stitching, she put the charm on and the button, and it's beautiful. And then she pieced it together and she did a little 4, 8, 12 patch. I was gonna say 9 patch. I'm like, that's not 9. There's a little 12 patch there on the side, and that's where I put my mug every single day. I use this every single day. Colette, I love it. And I just wanted you to know that a year after you gave it to me, I still use it every single day. And I think about you when I'm sitting at my sewing desk and having my coffee. Now, yes, I keep coffee on my sewing desk, but it is on the other side of the fabric. It's nowhere close to the fabric. So it's nice to have a little sentimental home for it. So I love that. Where was I? Where was I even? I was talking about Evertote. And we were how did I even get there? I don't even know how I even got there. So anyways, I'm gonna speed this up and wrap it up. Right. So the shop is gonna be closed at some point next week for about a week-ish. I'm not exactly sure at the moment. It depends on what my kids' plans are and what we decide to do as a family. My parents are also coming up this weekend, so I'm probably going to not be putting a ton of new bags in the shop over the weekend. A few new bags will be going in this week, but I'll probably slow down over the weekend, and moving into next week, the shop will be shut down. This week, so today is Monday, and for the next 4 or 5 days, I'm going to be concentrating on sewing up the very last of my scissor fabric. This is my bag. This is my project bag. I tend to keep all the duds, all the ones that I mess up just a little bit. Sometimes I'll offer them as a second if they're still, you know, like just one little tiny thing, and I'll put in the description what's wrong, and if somebody wants to give it a home, it's usually a little bit of a discount. But this one was actually, I don't know what I did. It was a little bit crooked. So it's fine when it's full, but when it's flat, it doesn't lay properly. And so I thought, well, I can't sell that. I thought, well, I like this fabric, so I'll keep it for myself. But anyways, once again, this is the medium size, and I sold a lot of this fabric in the medium flat size. I have 2 projects in here at the moment, and I'll give you a peek in a minute. I have 2 projects in here, 2 smalls, and you know, they fit beautifully. And the bags that I'm going to put in the shop are going to be the large size, the large flat, and I have 10. I have 10 large flats, so that's why you may remember I showed you this one and what it fits. So it's going to be this fabric with the navy blue twill on the bottom, in that size, and I will have 10 of them, and that's what I'm going to be working on for the rest of the week. I have a few other orders to go out. Thank you for supporting the shop. Thank you. It is it makes me smile every day that I get to do this. It's a lot of fun, and I love doing it. And the feedback has been great. So let me show you what I've got inside my old project bag here. Because, you know, it doesn't seem fair to show you a bag full of projects and not show you what's inside. I have, and you are going to laugh, because remember I said, you know, I keep the cast-offs? Well, my Notions tote does not match my project bag. So I have the scissors Notion pouch, the scissors flat bag, the big one, and I have a Christmas red gingham Notion pouch, because I don't even remember what was wrong with this one. Not that it matters, but anyway, I have my floss for my mitten design is in my Notion pouch, and that's the mitten, the little mitten that was the ornament for the holiday collection. And as you can see, I still haven't put a single stitch in there, and another single stitch in there. So that project is in there, as well as my Plum Street Samplers Hello Winter. This one's in here as well. I do not have this one on the Q-snap. This one, the fabric is loose. So the fabric is rolled up in the bottom. And as you can see, done a ton of work on this. Started the sheep. Now, the next thing that I have in here, you're gonna think is pretty funny, because it's a project bag thing, but it's not something that I made. I have my Bitsy Bob in here. Isn't that funny? So this is a product that is made by fellow Flosstuber Kelly, and her business, her Etsy business is called That's So Kelly, and she has no idea that I don't even know that she knows it was me that bought this last year. But anyways, I have all of my flosses for my Hello Winter. I have them tucked into my Bitsy Bob. And is this the Bitsy Bob 2? The one that's got the extra, I don't remember, but it comes with this little floss card, and as you can see, I've only put my sheep thread on there. And I keep my Bitsy Bob, snap, snap, fits inside my project bag with all my other stuff. So that pleases me. So that's what I've got in my scissor project bag. So there will be 10 of the large size project bags in the shop. I hope to have them listed by the time this video is live. And they will be all out in the mail by Monday of next week. Monday morning. I'm probably going to wrap things up on Monday or Tuesday of next week. We'll just have to see how things are going. Okay, so I have a feeling that this video is going to be epically long for me. Normally I try to keep my videos, you know, under an hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes max. I think I'm over an hour with this one. So thank you. If you're still watching, if you're still with me, I appreciate you keeping me company. And I hope that I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a super, super week. Thank you so much for watching and for subscribing and liking and not minding the ads that are at the beginning, the end, and now one in the middle. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on Friday for Friday Off the Grid. Have a great week, everybody. It's me again. So just quickly, my daughter is part of Junior Achievement, which is a group here in London, Ontario. And I think they're bigger than just London, Ontario, but it's a club that kids can go to and learn about business practices. They start their own business. They learn how to manage money and marketing, advertising, finance, things like that. And so my daughter has been in this program for the last 4 years. And every year they have a competition at the end where the companies that win, that are given the chance to win, their video about their product. Basically, it's how many likes can you get on your Facebook video. It's a bit silly. I didn't plug it last year for her because I said, you know, it's not really in the spirit of it, because you should have likes from people that you recruit. Well, the kid that won last year, the group that won last year had a mother who had a lot of friends via social media. So I said, okay, this year I'm gonna ask Flosstube Land, maybe they'll go and hit the like button on your Facebook post. So if you are so inclined, I'm going to put a link in the drop-down box below for a Facebook post. I'm also going to post it on the, I know, and this is shameless promotion here. I am going to put a link on the Facebook group. So if you're a member of the Facebook group, I'm just warning you now. It has nothing to do with cross stitch, and I'm totally going to post it anyways. I know. I hope you forgive me. So, I'm going to post it there, And I'm really hoping that if you are so inclined that you'll hit that like button, and maybe her company will win the Facebook contest this year. So she just came downstairs and reminded me. She said, "Did you ask them? Did you ask them if they'd go and like my video?" And I hadn't done it, so I promised her I would. So here I am, asking Flosstube Land if you will please vote and like for my daughter's Facebook video. Thank you. Happy stitching.